I love this land, Australia. She fills my heart with pride. A land of gentle dream times, where peace shall e'er abide.
It was a great deal of delight about 6 weeks ago when it was reported in the Shep News that Peter Russell Clark had contacted them and asked whether or not we might be able to use him in some way in the food co-op. I think most of us could not contain our excitement about the fact that a man with such a history and such an involvement in the food industry was willing to join us. Peter is obviously an icon in this country and someone who we are very glad to call one of our own.
G'day. My mother told me never call a woman a lady because she might not be. And never clap anyone before they speak because you don't know what they're going to say. That makes a lot of us because I'm not quite sure either. Les asked me to speak on why I wanted to be part of you people. And I thought for a while, and when I was a young fellow I was a commercial artist, and my young assistant was a girl called Sandy Batt, and she was the daughter of the Girgarre cheese factory manager, and so I had an association way back then. And then when I found out that the dairy industry was trying to sell their butter, and they were using an advertising slogan called "Butter, butter's better," I phoned them up and said, it bloody well doesn't. Margarine butter's better. What butter does is it tastes better. We're eating it. And they said, oh, well, you better do our advertising for us. And we increased butter sales by 19%. I then said, Australian cheese is better than the imported stuff. And I remember the president of the Australian Dairy Corporation said, no, it's not. The French cheese is better than ours. And what they do with the French cattle is they lock them up for 6 months of the year and feed them all sorts of things. That's why you've got mad cow disease and all that sort of business. We don't. We have cattle that eat our grass, which is not contaminated 6 months of the year. And therefore, our cattle produce cattle, what I mean is cows. Our cows produce the best milk in the world. And you make dairy products from milk. So guess what? We make the best cheese. And they said, oh, well, I don't know that you're right. And I said, well, we've pinched all the people that make cheese from Europe. We've pinched the cheesemakers. We've pinched their recipes. We've got the best milk, so therefore it's logical our cheese is the best. And we ran the advertising campaigns saying just that, and we now eat more Australian cheese than we eat of the imported stuff. By telling you these stories, it made me realise that all you've got to do is to tell people an honesty about a product. And when I heard that the Girgarre cheese factory had gone down the gurgler and Heinz had taken over, I was quite interested, and I was quite interested that to advertise their product, they got a very fat Englishman, Robert Morley, lovely old fella, got nothing to do with tomato sauce, but nevertheless, this American firm, Heinz, used an Englishman to try to tell Australians that we should be buying Australian product. I thought, well, what bloody bullshit that is. It's absolutely, completely wrong. Now I've found that Heinz have decided that they'll go elsewhere, and I thought, I'm interested in what's going to happen to that factory, and I'm interested in what's going to happen to the people that grow the product, the tomatoes, and the people that make the product. They put it into bottles. And so I phoned Les and said if I can help in any way, I'd be very interested. And it made me think about Australia and what we produce. And then I saw an ad on television which showed a lot of Australian workers saying thank you for buying Australian products. You've probably seen the ad. They all nod and say thank you for buying Australian product. And I thought, well, that's bloody wrong. What they should have is an American citrus farmer saying thank you for buying American oranges. I know that they come a long way from America and we artificially colour them, but anyway, thank you, because we Americans need you to buy our product. And they should have had Chinese saying thank you for buying all the bloody rubbish we're making over here, and we need somewhere to dump it, so thank you. And they should have had Italians saying here's our tin of tomato chopped up, thank you for buying that also, because you're helping the Italian farmers. And I thought then we could show the water of a toilet bowl and have Australia's economy written in the water, and then a hand come in and flush it. Then when the water settles down, we have a photograph of Australia sitting in the water and a hand come down and flush that down the dunny too, because that would make more sense as an ad. And I thought, well, okay, if we're going to think about advertising and marketing the product, then what we've got to do is to make sure that if Les and the rest of his committee's group are going to continue this factory and make the product, then what we've got to do is to actually be able to flog it. We've got to be able to sell it. And I thought, why don't we actually make our product with a point of difference to it? And so I spoke to the farmers in North Queensland and said, you're making a lot of exotic fruits up there that you're having trouble selling. What if we were able to bring down your exotic fruits here and mix it with our tomatoes? And then I thought, I've got a lot of Aboriginal friends that need more than a handout that they're getting now. They need to have a job which will keep them going. And so I've asked them if they'll go out and collect a lot of spices and bush tucker and that sort of business. And we mix that with our tomatoes as well. So all of a sudden, we've got a really ripper product that's different to that anyone else is making. Because I thought, we're all saying let's buy Australian products, but we don't. And the reason we don't is because they're no cheaper than anyone else's, and they don't have a point of difference. And so if we gave our product that point of difference, we'd be able to say, instead of it being Australian, we'd be saying it's Girgarre. Because I believe what we've got to do is to fix our own backyard and then worry about Australia. What I think we've got to do is to make the Girgarre factory viable, and I'm sure that that's going to happen. We've got to make sure that we make the product from there the best in the world, and we turn it around and sell it to the rest of the world. Because at the moment, if we try to flog bottled tomato sauce to China, they're not going to really be interested. But if we say to them, we're adding hoisin sauce to our tomatoes, they'll say, "Struth, we love hoisin sauce, we eat it. And isn't it bloody terrific that we've now got tomato in our hoisin, and it even tastes better than before they put tomato in it, so we'll buy it." So all of a sudden, we're not just flogging Australian products, we're flogging Girgarre products from Australia to the rest of the world. And I said to the little journalist fellow, I'm sorry I said little, but I'm small too, the chap from the Shepparton News, I said, we've got to really concern ourselves with what we can do with tomatoes. And I thought, well, we all know tomatoes taste good and they're all the things we know, but we forget that they smell good. Isn't it true that if you pick a tomato, it has a wonderful smell? And I thought, I wonder if we made our underpants smell of tomatoes, whether that would be a good idea, or our socks smell of tomatoes. So instead of just eating the tomato, we take the smell of the tomato and do something with it. And that made me think, well, I wonder if we can flog tomato biscuits. Someone was speaking before, I think it was someone who was talking about Timor, and they need all sorts of products up there, and those products have got to be able to be transported, and biscuits are easily transported, and so this factory doesn't have to actually make the product here. We'll make the product, but we'll also say to other factories, we'll give you our tomatoes and you make these products under licence to Girgarre. You make them for us and give us part of the profit, and we'll flog them all over the joint. So we won't just be making tomato sauce, we'll be making tomato sausages. So we'll get all the butchers that can't flog all their fat and bloody gristle they're putting in their sausages, and we'll add tomato with it, because tomato's an acid and it'll break down that fat and it'll break down that gristle, and we'll all become rich and famous. That's what I want. I want Girgarre to start. I want us to think Girgarre. I want us to think Girgarre and the environs, the region here. Then we can start worrying about bloody Australia. Look after our backyard first, and I thank you for listening to me.
Hopefully most of you saw on the front page of the Shep News this week a fabulous new design. We've got the young architects in Ben and Will over here, and they're dying to talk to you about that design and tell you how clever it really is if you get even below the skin. We do not think that the factory over at Girgarre is one that should be where you go and make food and you hide out. This is one where everybody should be able to share in that. So the design that Ben and Will have come up with is obviously one which says you are welcome.
So basically this is the more public space, and there's a proposed sort of restaurant and a cafe space to go there. So the idea that some of that will, some of the produce and things will be produced there for the public to go and eat, and also there's a sort of veggie patch further down here that, you know, it's kind of integrating the idea of making food and selling it there, and a bit of it. So it might look a bit like a spaceship, but it really does have a strong sort of integration into the way that the factory is laid out and how it can associate itself with the workings of the factory. Yeah. It's all about attention and getting people to understand the process. Well, it seems a lot like people really is interested in the sustainability side of it, and how you know, the questions we've had is, are there solar panels? How does it heat itself? How does it cool itself? How does the water work? And you know, there was a comment that we're very water conscious here, and we've certainly put in sort of provisions on how to heat and cool and recycle the water of the factory, and the main sort of energy sources are all sustainable sources. So yeah, it's been pretty.
People have been pretty enthusiastic about it too. We're pretty pleased with their response to the shape of it and the spaceship-like form. Everyone's really into it, and we're really happy that people get that and really like that. I think that's a great thing. That's pretty full-on design, and we're kind of proud that people understand that and are happy about that. You know? Yeah. So we're really pleased. Well, we were very inspired by the factory itself and the machinery in the factory itself. There's this really incredible, intricate pipe work that they reticulate the water through, and that they heat and run a lot of the power and process the tomatoes with, and that was the starting point that we came from. So we thought, you know, we looked at what was already there and thought, how can we build on that? How can we take inspiration from that and make something that relates really strongly to what's already there?
And I think we, in terms of the content and arranging the content of the building, we were also sort of interested in that organisational technique of the production line, and how to efficiently organise things and be able to get to an outcome or a conclusion at the end of something after you've been through a series of stages, through walking through a building or organising the activities in a building. So it's not only looks like a factory machinery, it's meant to operate like one as well. It's an educational machine. Yeah, there you go.
We're for the farmers, we're for the local people, we're for the people who love